I'm making a video that I may never post. For those of you who know TMS healing, and I love TMS healing, okay? It's one of the facets that I've used to heal my symptoms, to heal my over 200 symptoms. But for those of you who know me, I am still left with some nerve pain that congregates in the back of my neck, my face, my eyes. I mean, it was head to toe nerve pain at one point that was like beyond my capacity to endure. And this is like residual nerve pain. So it's not like anything that was at the height, but just like when you get a migraine headache, it sucks, it hurts. So this lingering nerve pain is no fun. And it comes on often. And I've been trying to get rid of this last symptom and it's been holding on. And my thinking is that nerve pain is just difficult to heal. And I believe that. I believe nerve pain is one of the last things to ever heal. It's hard to heal your nerve fibers. But at the same time, I do subscribe to the theory of TMS healing and other many similar teachings where your emotions that are inside you, the rage, the grief, the fear, these things that are left inside you, buried inside you at a subconscious level, are the things that are trapped in your body, causing the pain, causing the illness, causing the ailment. I've done a lot of trauma healing. I've done all kinds of physical and emotional and spiritual trauma work. I've also done a lot of TMS work. Journal your feelings every single day out onto the paper, and you basically word vomit them. You hold nothing back. In my mind, I'm thinking, I know what I'm angry about. Yes, I have deep rage about the pharmaceutical industry. Yes, I have deep rage from the people who hurt me, from the people who gave me this, from the fact that my life fell off the rails, from everything that I've went through. I have deep grief, deep rage, and deep anger, and deep shame, and deep guilt. So yes, I know that. I know that to be true, and I've done all the work on that. And I'm thinking, yes, there are many events, there are many things that have happened that are still left unconscious. I haven't been through every single one of them. Because when you're talking every second for years, you can't possibly revisit all the traumas and write all that down, journal it or do all the exercises on it or the inner child work or whatever it is that you're doing to heal that, because it's every second, every day for years. So it's impossible to really revisit all these traumas or bring them out to the light of day, so to speak. Take them from darkness into the light, take them from subconscious into the conscious. I've thought, I've got the majority of them. The big ones, I understand there's tons in there still, but that's probably not what's causing my lingering pain. It probably is just the physical aspect of things healing slowly. Nerves just heal slowly. You focus on your diet, you do the physical work, and everything else in regards to healing that, along with continuing the emotional work. Well, today I had a realization. I'm thinking to myself as I'm thinking this, like it's coming into my head, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I didn't understand there was a whole part of my being because it was unconscious. Up until this point, it was unconscious. Now the pain wasn't unconscious. The rage wasn't unconscious. The events weren't unconscious. Everything that happened to me was not unconscious. So I've been looking at it from a different point of view. So what was unconscious was how I felt about it. I've been writing about it, journaling about it, thinking about it. Okay, the rage of these doctors and what they did to me, the anger at myself and the self-forgiveness piece that I had to do because I put them in my body. There's a lot of, anger at the industry, anger at the loss of the life, and anger at myself, right? So there's a lot of work to be done there with guilt, shame, inner child work. So I've been doing that work. Thinking like I can forgive myself. I'm doing the forgiveness work. I'm doing the anger work. I'm doing the rage work. I'm doing the grief work. I'm doing it all. Today I'm walking along and suddenly something becomes conscious. It comes into the light after years and years of me like doing so much work, and I just never thought of it this way before. And that is this. I have a whole unexcavated portion of my rage and portion of my grief that I wasn't able or ready to acknowledge until today. And that is that I'm very angry. I'm filled with rage and grief and the feelings of sadness and wrongness and everything. I'm filled with these feelings, not towards the pharmaceutical industry, not towards myself, but towards the people that I love most, even the people who didn't abandon me. So I didn't know this, right? I've gone through the grief of the people who abandoned me, of the people who didn't believe me, of the people who cut me out of their life. I've gone through and worked through that. I didn't realize that I'm filled with grief and rage and mixed emotions towards my husband, towards his parents, towards my dad, towards the people who know me and love me best, towards the people who watched me go through this, who stayed by my side, who loved me and still love me. But those people, it's that they loved me, they didn't leave me, they even understand, they believe me. But what I didn't know until now, and what's coming up in 2021, as everything's coming up in the world, is it didn't have enough of an impact on them. My suffering, my experience, yes, they said they believe. Yes, they didn't leave me. Yes, they love me. But my experience didn't impact them enough to shift their views or values. And because I don't want to shift anybody's views or values, and I want them to be able to believe what they do believe, and they have the values that they do have, and I'm okay with that, and the fact that they're not, when they get hurt, they still go to the doctor. They still trust the pharmaceutical medications. They still trust the process. They're on board with what's happening in the world right now. They see the positives and the benefits of it. I want them to be able to have their own beliefs, their own perspectives, their own values, their own personal thoughts and opinions. But underneath it all, subconsciously, I'm pissed. I'm angry. I feel abandoned on a very deep, deep level by the people who love me the most, because if they truly did believe what I went through, if it did impact them on a deep, deep level, even my husband, especially my husband, who has been there watching me, it has ruined his life too, and yet he still doesn't see what I see, my truth, to the full extent. And that's him. So why would I get mad about that? But deep down it hurts. I feel rejected. I feel unloved. I feel unworthy. I feel misunderstood. I feel angry. I feel sad. I feel like nobody truly understands me or loves me enough to see the truth, to have it have affected them so much that they change their values. And not because I tell them to, right? Have you ever had that experience like, oh man, you want somebody to do something, but not because you force them to, not because you tell them to, but because they see it and they feel it. And they do it because they want to. It's like, it has affected them. It has changed them. They do see things differently now. And not because they want you to love them, or not because they want you to think that they're on your team, but because they really are. And so I didn't know that there's this whole piece of real deep hurt, because yes, I want my husband to be able to have his own beliefs, and if that is siding with the side of the people that I really believe have stolen and hurt me and lied, and no matter what pieces of information I put in front of him, he gets it, but he doesn't feel it. He doesn't feel the way I do. He doesn't feel it. And I didn't know I was angry about that. On a level, I knew I was angry about that because I keep trying to convince him, I keep trying to show him the data, I keep trying to, but I don't want to win like that. I don't want him to do something because I've convinced him. I wanted him to support me. I wanted him to feel the way I feel because he saw it and because he also believed in his soul and his heart that it was damaging and that it was wrong and that it was criminal. There's the hurt that I didn't know existed. And when it comes to my family, my dad and his parents, of course, they're already on board. They've already rolled up their sleeves. However, the fact that there's never any discussion or any acknowledgement or any even link from that to what I went through, it's like it's a separate issue. It's like, oh, yeah, you took something and yeah, you really had a bad reaction, but they don't see the full truth of it, right? And they certainly don't link it to any other medications or anything that's going on in the world. They don't see the link at all. Not only do they not see the link, but they look down on me for seeing the link. They look down on me. And that's hurtful. It's hurtful because I didn't know I was carrying the pain and the anger and the sadness and the deep loss and hurt with me every day when I interact with these people who I love, and I'm glad they have their own free will and free choice, and I really am in the bottom of my heart glad that they're doing what is right for them. But I'm still sad that no one's ever linked it to what I've went through. That it feels like I've been abandoned, and it feels like I'm they make me feel like I'm doing something wrong, or I'm making light of something, or I'm not seeing things properly, or they put out of their head what I went through and what their grandchildren went through and what everybody went through because of this. It's just something that they choose to put out of their head, like, oh, that has nothing to do with this or me or anything else. And so because it was deep for me and it took a lot of years to go through, I carry this hurt every time I'm in a relationship and I'm only in a relationship right now because everybody else left me, right? Everyone else abandoned me. So the only people I have in my life is my dad, my parents-in-law, my husband, my children. That's it. And even my parents-in-law don't want to see us anymore. Don't want to see us anymore because of what's happened and because I haven't rolled up my sleeve. And so I'm losing even people who I didn't think I would have to lose, who I thought would understand at a deep level. And then my own dad, who never asks me to get it, who never would, but he never asks me how I am. He never asks about my story. It's just gone. It's forgotten. It's buried. It's like it never existed, like it never happened. And it doesn't matter when I share my wisdom with him about certain things or natural ways that he can heal some of the conditions that he has and that he's going through. It's like he doesn't want to believe me. You know, I have truth. I have something that could actually help him right in front of him, and he doesn't acknowledge that I know anything. He's like, the doctor in the white coat knows everything. Like, I don't want to hear it. Like, I'm just doing what the doctor tells me. And that's hurtful for me, not because I want him to do what I say, just because I want him to acknowledge me. I want to feel acknowledged. I want to feel like I matter. So now I realize there's a whole bunch of excavation that I can do. I can do a lot of this inner child work. I can do the journaling. I can do the rage. I can do the trauma work around this area that was never an area I focused on because I just kept that part inside me that I knew I was hurt. I knew it bothered me. But I didn't know that I was carrying around this conflicting feeling of these are the only people I have in my life, and I want them to love me, and I want them to think I'm a good person, and I want them to accept me. And so I'm terrified that they won't, that it'll fall apart, that my decisions could make them leave me and then have nobody. So I'm terrified of abandonment and loss. And I'm also angry that I don't matter enough, that my journey, what I went through, doesn't resonate You know, like they always say that old saying, like, oh, you know, let a bird out of its cage, and if it doesn't fly away, if it flies away, it's meant to be free, and if it comes back to you, it's like meant to be. Like, I want to open the cage and the bird just wants to stay, right? But when I open, like, I don't want anybody to do something because I want them to. I wanted to matter enough. And on some level, I can matter and they can still have that choice, and I know that. But on some level deeper than that, some really childlike way, part of me feels, a part of me I didn't even want to acknowledge, feels that if they don't change their values, specifically my husband, because he saw, because he witnessed, without even words having to be spoken, then maybe it wasn't important enough. It didn't hold enough weight. It wasn't severe enough. It wasn't strong enough. It wasn't devastating enough for him to realize. And that makes me wonder, is that why I'm holding on to the last bit of the residual pain? If it just goes away, does all of it just go away? Does it never get, it will never matter. It will never matter to anyone that loves me again. But as long as it lingers, as long as it continues to linger years and years after, is that my protection? That, like, see, is that my proof? Like, see, look, how can it not matter to you? Look how long it's gone on. See, is that my proof, right? For them to see, for them to continue to be able to open their eyes and wake up, to show me that I matter. My husband loves me. But for what happened to me for him to suddenly see and change, right? His values change. It was startling enough that it woke him up. It changed him on a fundamental level. It changed some of his values. And if it goes away, then we'll always be divided in those values. And I guess I don't know if I can live my whole life feeling divided in those values. So am I keeping this pain alive? And this is just armchair psychology right now, but is this last little bit of lingering pain my last little bit of lingering hope that before this is all over, he's going to know, he's going to see that there's a chance for us to come together on a deeper soul level about this issue, about this value, and that will bond us forever. And if this goes away and we never bond on that soul level, that I'm going to be with somebody for the rest of my life that doesn't resonate deeply with what's now become part of the being of who I am, right? It wasn't when I met him, so we didn't have to bond on this level. But you want the person, your soulmate, to understand you on a soul level, connect with you on a soul level. And yes, we can love each other, and yes, we can live together, and yes, we can be married, and yes, we can do everything despite being aligned on every issue. But when it's an issue that impacts your soul, you want to be aligned with your soul partner in life. And maybe that's what I don't want to see, right? Maybe that is what's buried deep in the subconscious, that I don't want to see that. I don't want to know that. And I don't want to live a life unconnected at a soul level with somebody who doesn't understand my soul, who doesn't just instinctually get it, know, like, takes my soul as a part of their soul and vice versa. I don't want to be alone. I want to be able to understand him and to take into his positions. But I can't on this, right? Ever. I don't feel like I'll ever connect on a soul level on this issue. And since it's so big for me, since it's become a part of me, it's hard to imagine that. And that is a hard thing to bring up to the light. That's hard. That's why we keep these things subconscious. So I didn't know this about myself. And I don't know. I mean, obviously I know I love him. I know he loves me. I know my dad loves me. I know I love him. I know his parents love me. I love them. But what does it mean for the future? What does it mean if we're so disconnected on such an important issue that affects me on my soul? It may not affect them on their soul at all. It's just an issue that they have thoughts and feelings and opinions about, and I'm sure it doesn't affect them on a soul level. But when it comes down to it, when people are in crisis, and I have one philosophy and they have another, it's very hard to connect, right? Because when people are sick, when people are ill, when people are dying, when people are scared, that's when you want to come together with the people who you love most and believe. That's why religions exist around the world. People want to come together in community and believe the same things, and there's like this sense of family and bonding in a shared belief, in a shared vision, in a shared prayer, in a shared faith. And so these are some of the things that, out of all the work I've done, I didn't see what was right in front of me, right? What's been right in front of me every day, all day, in every interaction. There's this subtle, deep down subconscious feeling of like, maybe I don't matter enough to you. Because it didn't affect you on such a deep enough level for you to change your thoughts or opinions, then maybe I really don't matter. Maybe it didn't matter to you the way it mattered to me. Maybe you didn't see it. Maybe I'm alone in this. You know, when I want to believe I'm not alone in it, when I want to believe my husband gets it, he saw it, he understands, he loves me, he didn't leave me. Like, I get that. But there's a part of me that wants him to get it on a soul level, right? For him to be so affected that it shifts his thinking, his values, his beliefs, the way it shifted and changed mine. Within every interaction, there was this deep subconscious, right? I never thought it. Sadness, grief, anger, disappointment, feeling of shame, guilt, abandonment. So there it is. Now it's conscious, so I can't not know that now. So now what do I do with that, right? Now I can only do the exercises. Now I can only do the inner healing work on that. Sometimes things are subconscious that we don't even know. And I'm sure that's not the last of my revelations that are subconscious that I didn't know. But I'm sure this affects every part of my life without me even knowing it. And is it part of the reason why some of the last pain lingers? And it's not the nerve pain healing slowly, but it's my brain's subconscious need to hold on to it in order to hold on to the hope that maybe the longer this lingers and the more impact it has over our lives, the more chance he'll have to see, to know, to believe, to just align with me. But that's heavy stuff, because why would I do that? Why would I keep this pain alive? I mean, none of it makes sense, right? But when you look at it from a TMS perspective, or when you look at it from a lot of different teachings perspectives, people hold on to illness. People keep illness alive for the craziest reasons that they don't know or understand. Their subconscious reasons, beliefs, feelings, fears. They keep them alive because they can't, face bringing certain realities into the light of day, because it might change their life in ways that they're not ready to change or that they don't even want to change. And so it's easier to have the pain than it is to change your whole life or to address something that is better left unaddressed or unsaid, or that could shift your world in very dramatic, dynamic ways. If you face it, if you feel it. So that's the theory. It's the theory of TMS. That's something that, so here's another revelation. I've been through so many revelations that I thought I've gotten to the bottom of my revelations. But yeah, here's another one of them. And it's worth doing all the inner healing work on it, because even making it conscious doesn't mean I have to change anything. It doesn't even mean I have to discuss it with my husband. It doesn't mean I have to change our relationship or leave it or anything, but just bringing things to the light of day that can no longer be denied, suppressed, rejected, turned away from, help you heal. Because you don't have to have all that energy holding it inside anymore. All that subconscious energy and what it takes to hold things buried. So I don't know if I'm going to post this video. Like I said, it's a sensitive topic. I don't know if my husband watches my videos. He says he does. I don't really think he watches many of them. And listen, I just want to add here that I know this isn't about me. Everything going on in the world is not just about me. So I'm self-aware enough to know that there are reasons to get it and there are reasons not to get it. But what upsets me in the case, not of my husband, but in my father and my mother and father-in-law, is like, what happened to me didn't even make it on the radar. So not only did they like choose to get it, which I think is a good choice for them if that's what they want, but what happened to me didn't even make it on their radar. I feel like they were lined up to get it. Like they decided within a split millisecond to say yes. Like they didn't even question. Geez, look what happened to my daughter. Look what happened to our daughter. Look what happened to our daughter-in-law. Like maybe we should at least question this, at least research it, at least ask her a few questions. You know, it was like it didn't matter. It felt to me like a personal attack because I felt like it didn't even matter because what happened to me didn't even make it on their radar. It wasn't even a consideration. Like, oh yeah, that happened to you, but it couldn't possibly happen to me or anybody else. So therefore, it's not even important what you went through, and you're just being ridiculous and silly, and obviously I'm gonna get this, and you should too. That kind of a mentality was the mentality that hurt. That's the mentality that hurts. That's the mentality that I keep subconscious, buried down, that I don't want to think about, because it's not that they made the decision, but it's like what happened to me. The 10 years of my life didn't even make it on the radar. It didn't even matter. My dad didn't even stop, right? He was lined up before his age group was even eligible. Like, and I said, you should consider this. Like, look what happened. He didn't even want to hear it. It didn't enter his consciousness. And that's what was so, not that I ever wanted him not to make a choice that he wasn't comfortable with, but I wanted him to consider me. I wanted him to think about it. I wanted it to at least impact him enough to like stop, to take a breath, to take a day, to take a 24-hour period, to just do a little research or consider it or ask a few questions. That would have shown to me that the whole 10 years that I suffered and experienced what I did, you know, made any kind of an impact at all, just even mattered a little bit, that my story mattered or that it could help anyone else, right? So I don't want anyone to make a choice. I wanted my story to matter, right? I want my story to matter. I want what happened to me to matter. And I want the people who love me, who actually saw what happened, to even consider it, to even have it make an ounce or a millisecond into their mind when considering using pharmaceuticals or anything. Just to consider it, like, oh, I better just even stop to think, even for a millisecond, about what could go wrong or about the risk versus benefit. And I just feel like I'm like living in this world where it didn't matter. Like my story didn't matter enough for even somebody to stop and consider what the risk versus benefit of any pharmaceutical. I feel like I'm living with a bunch of people, not my husband, because he does the research. He tries to understand both sides, but like for my parents-in-law and for my dad, my own father, it's like it doesn't even make it on the radar. Not a split millisecond, not even a reference, not even I understand that this comes with risks and I'm willing to take it because I'm that afraid of what's happening in the world, and I just think it's the right thing to do. But even just not to like question it. It feels like a slap in the face, right? It feels like this subconscious slap in the face to me. And I know this isn't personal. I mean, I've been around the block long enough to know that people aren't thinking about me because this isn't about me. But to me, it's personal. To me, it feels like a slap in the face. To me, it feels like my experience and my whole 10 years of going through what I did matters not to anybody who loves me. And if it matters not to anyone who loves me, do they love me? Do they really love me? Do they understand me? We all want love. We all want acceptance. We all want understanding. We all want to be heard. We all want to be witnessed. We all want to be validated. We all want the deepest hurts and wounds within us to matter to those who love us. And so it feels like those wounds don't matter to anyone who loves me. That's what it feels like. And that's a horrible feeling. But because you can't say that to the only people in my life who love me. It would cause tension between me and my husband if I said that to his parents. It would cause a fight between me and my dad if I said that. It would cause our kids, it would cause a rift in our family. Like, it would cause a big problem if I said that. So we don't say it. We put on a smile face, we ignore it, we bury those feelings, we bury things deep down inside us, and we don't say them because we realize that they're useless to say. We realize it's not going to do any good, right? There's that old adage, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it, don't say anything at all. And also I realize on a bigger scale that this really has nothing to do with me. This is the world event and everybody has to choose something for themselves, right? But I still want my wounds to matter. I want what I went through to matter, to people to love me. And how do they show me that it matters? I don't know. Ask me how I'm doing once in a while. Ask me about my story. Just even stop and consider the risk versus benefit of something. Like, make it have mattered in some way what I went through, because I really believe there's meaning to what I went through, right? If I can't share the meaning or the valuable lessons that I learned going through what I went through, it makes it all for nothing. And particularly those who I love the dearest, right? It makes it feel like it's for nothing, and it makes me feel like my wounds aren't important, and just makes me feel so alone, right? In this life. And people long and they look for people to, like, I want to drive with someone on a soul level who gets me, not because I want them to believe what I believe, but because I want to feel loved. I want to feel like I matter. We yearn for this deep connection on a soul level, to be understood, to have our wounds matter, to be witnessed, to be cared for, to have empathy, whatever. We yearn for this as human beings, this connection. And when I feel so divided on an issue or on something that's coming up in the world with most of the people who I love dearly and who are truly the only people left in my life, I feel alone, right? I feel disconnected. And we long for human connection. So it's not about changing anyone. It's just this deep hurt inside me that wants something that I can't have, that longs for a connection that's not there, that longs to be understood or to be witnessed or to be loved or to have empathy or to have my story matter. It just to long for something that I can't be given. And it's hard, right? It's hard not to get these deep human connections and this deep human love and this deep human understanding. I mean, that's kind of what we're all here for. So when you hold those things inside, what happens? I don't know. You know, is that part of this nerve pain that doesn't go away? Is that part of it? So it's a question, and it's a question that you should ask too. What is still there? What are the things that are still buried unconscious? What are the things that you don't want to look at? What are the things that if you did look at would hurt too much? Or if you faced them and addressed them and really looked at them, could have the potential to change your life. And that's so scary. It's so, I mean, I don't want to go out and find someone who connects with me on a better level and leave my old life behind. That's not what I want. But part of me wants to feel understood, wants to feel loved, wants to feel connected with, deep connection. And it's hard not to have that, right? So I feel like I'm denying a part of my humanness to want to be loved and connected with on a really deep level. Healing's hard. Healing sucks. Bringing things up from the subconscious to the conscious sucks. It's not fun, but it's freeing. And as you do it and as you realize it, you don't even have to do anything. You just have to keep excavating. The things trapped in our body need to come out. The trapped, stuck energy, the trapped, stuck emotions do no good inside you. You're carrying them. They're heavy. They're burdensome. They come with you day to day. Allowing yourself to I see it. I don't have to post this video. I don't have to share this with anybody. It's just enough that it comes up into the light. And coming up into the light could be up inside your own head. It could be up inside your own heart. And it could be out on a paper. It could be out the way I'm video blogging right now. It doesn't have to come out to anyone except you. Now that that has come up to the light, is I sit with that. It's uncomfortable. My story as it is has left me in a position where I feel like my story, what I went through, doesn't matter enough to my mother and father-in-law or my own dad enough to have them even question it, to have them even consider something else. And so it's not the considering something else that I actually need them to do in order for this to heal, but I need to sit with my story doesn't matter enough to people that I want it to matter to. I want my feelings and my story to matter to my dad. I want my feelings and my story to matter to my parents-in-law. And so I sit with the feeling that as it is right now, my story didn't make an impact on them. My story doesn't matter to them. What happened to me doesn't matter. What happened to me doesn't impact their life. What happened to me doesn't affect them, doesn't make them see things differently. So then I sit with that feeling. It didn't matter enough. That's the hard part to sit with, isn't it? Because I want it to matter enough. But I just sit with what is. I don't try to change it. It didn't matter enough. It didn't matter enough. And that's what I need to sit with. Right? That's what we just sit with. Can I sit with that feeling without turning away from it, without trying to change it, without trying to fix it, without trying to deny it, without trying to make excuses for it, or find reasons why that's just not so? Fact is, the deeper conscious truth that I feel deep down is that my story didn't matter. I don't matter enough. What happened to me was not important to them. Did not change their life. They don't care. It doesn't even, it's not worthy enough of consideration. And so I sit with that. I sit with that feeling. It's the feeling I don't want to sit with. Whether it's true or not is beyond me. That's how I feel. Whether I do matter to them or not is not relevant. Because the situation that I'm in now, the feeling that I subconsciously carry around all day is that my story wasn't important enough. It wasn't big enough. It wasn't dynamic enough. It wasn't destructive enough to them to matter. And so I sit with it. I sit with that. Can I sit with the heaviness of that? Of what that means? Of how alone it makes me feel? Of how cut off? Of how unloved, unaccepted? How deeply sad? Can I sit with the grief of that? Can I sit with the anger of that? So that's what we're trying to heal. When we bring up these truths, it's not a matter of, well, now I need to be witnessed. Now I need to be heard. Now I need to talk this out in such a way that it does matter to them, or fight for it. That's not what we're doing here. We're acknowledging, and then we allow it. We sit with it. Can we sit with that feeling out in the conscious? Or is it so painful we have to bury it deep in? Right? And we allow it to come to the light. I don't matter enough. What happened to me doesn't matter enough. The pain, the grief, the anger, the abandonment, the shame, the guilt, to learn real healing, wisdom, and truth from someone who's gone through it, someone who's still going through and learning the lessons and sharing the lessons. So again, all I ask is for you to make a comment, smash the like button. It forces the YouTube algorithm to share it. It forces my channel not to go into oblivion where no one can ever find it or see it. Can I sit with them? Am I brave enough to sit with the actual truth of the actual feelings, of the actual heaviness that subconscious truth brought up to the light of day creates in me? You know? Then it makes me miss my mom, because she was somebody who supported and loved me unconditionally. And then that brings up that grief. Can I sit with that? Can I sit with the fact that nobody will ever love me again as unconditionally as my mom did? Not my dad, not my parents-in-law, not even my husband. that I will never have that unconditional love the way my mom gave it to me, the way I mattered to her, that I will never have that again. It's hard truth coming up. That's coming up to the light. That's something I don't want to acknowledge, so I push down. Like, of course my husband loves me enough. Of course my dad loves me the same. But that unconscious, that subconscious feeling that I carry with me is that nobody will ever love me the way my mom did again. Can I sit with that? Can I sit with the grief of that? The anger of that? The sadness? The loneliness? The desperation? Can I sit with all of that? Can I just hold space for it? Can I just hold that feeling? Just allow it to be there and breathe through it. To love myself. That's where you do the inner child work. You give it to yourself. You say, my story doesn't matter enough to those people, but I matter enough to me. My story matters enough to me. I can give that to myself. I can give that my story matters to me. Or when I have the feeling that nobody will love me unconditionally the way my mom did, can I sit with that? I don't have to get my husband to love me that much. All I need to do is love myself that much. I can give it to myself, right? I can do that inner child work. I can sit with the pain and the suffering and the desperation and the sadness and the loneliness of that feeling, of those feelings coming up, of those emotions. And I can be there. I can sit beside the inner child that is feeling those, and I can bring kindness, love, and compassion and say, you matter that much to me. I can give you that. So it's not about getting what we need from the outside world. It's not even about leaving my husband and finding somebody new who does feel the same values as I do. That's not what this is about. It's not about getting my parents-in-law to see or getting my dad to care or getting anyone to do what I want or to see it my way. That's not what it's about. It's can we sit with those painful emotions as they rise, those deep feelings that bring up grief and anger and blame and sadness and guilt and shame. Can we sit with those feelings? Can we sit with the part of ourself that needs to feel them? And can we witness our own self? Can we give it to our own self? Can we love our own self? Can our story matter that much to our own self? Can we just let it be and still love those people in my life and be like, hey, they have different priorities. I can be in a relationship with them, even though my story didn't matter enough, because it matters enough to me. So it's not like I need them to validate it or witness it or have it matter. It would be nice, right? There's pain when they can't. But as long as I can do it for myself, then I can still be in a relationship with them and love the parts of them that do love me and love the parts of them that do see me, and allow them to love the parts and to acknowledge the parts of me that they are able to acknowledge and see. And same with my husband, right? He loves me. He has never abandoned me. He does try to look at both sides. He happens to believe something different than I believe because he didn't feel what I felt, because he was brought up with different parents, because he has a different upbringing, because he hasn't been harmed the way I have. There's so many reasons why. And yet I want him to so badly, but can I sit with the fact of the truth that he doesn't? Can I sit with that? It's hard to sit with, because what does that mean? Can I sit with what that means? Can I sit with the fact that I will never be connected with on a soul level with him in an area that I desperately long to connect with him on? Sit with that, right? I sit with that. I sit with that powerful sadness and grief and loneliness that I will never connect with the person I love most in this world on an issue that matters to me in the depth of my soul. So just sit with that. Can I still love him? Can I still allow him to love me? Can we connect on other matters of the soul? Yes, yes, and yes, all of that is true, because I can give what I need, what he's unable to give me in that area, to myself. It's not about changing your circumstances every time. Sometimes it's about changing your circumstance. Sometimes it's about leaving your husband. Sometimes it's about leaving your job. Sometimes it's about leaving, something that's not right. Sometimes it's about taking an action that makes your life different or better in some way. But if you're conflicted because you don't want to, I don't want to leave my husband. I don't want to leave him over this issue. I don't want it to ruin our marriage, fragment our whole marriage over something that's so deep for me on this issue, because I love the rest of him, the rest of it. Right? So when we're conflicted with that, we normally keep these things inside. We normally bury it to the unconscious because it's too painful, because there's parts of it that I don't want to give up. So I don't have to give it up. That's the beauty of self-healing, is that we don't have to make changes. I just have to sit with that feeling. That feeling I might have to sit with, I might have to meditate on it, I might have to journal on it, I might have to think about it for days, for weeks, for months, for years. But can I sit with that feeling without trying to change it, without trying to change him, without running from it, without hiding from it, without doing anything with it, except for sitting with it, with the part of me that needs to feel it, that is having a hard time? Can I stay with that child, with that part of me that needs my love and compassion? And can I give what myself needs to myself? That's what healing is. We bring health to the sick parts of ourselves. We bring healing to the illness. We're not on a spectrum of going from sick to healed. We're on a spectrum of how much healing we can bring to what is sick. There's such a big difference, and I might do a video topic just on that alone. This is how we heal. Bring what's unconscious to the light, and we realize it won't kill us. We can feel it. We're strong enough to feel it. It doesn't have to be buried any longer. And so we unbury it. We dig it up, and it's painful, and it hurts, and it causes us triggers and sadness and crying and anger. And then we realize we don't have to change it. We don't have to react to it. We don't have to get it to be different or fight it or try to make it something that it's not. We don't have to deny it or put it away or bury it deep. All we have to do is bring it out and be strong enough, be brave enough to sit with it, to face it, to feel it. And when we feel it, when we allow ourselves to feel the feelings, and we stay with loving compassion and kindness for ourselves, then we bring healing to what the parts of ourselves that need to be healed. So I wouldn't normally share private stuff about my family and my feelings like out in public like this, because I don't want, if they ever watched it, I wouldn't want them to feel a certain way. But I think this is too important. I think it's like watching somebody else have realizations and watching somebody else go through healing step at a time on like what do we do with this stuff is important. So I think it's important enough to share. I think it's important enough to post, because so you can see how it's done, because it's often easy when I give theory about how to do it, but it's a different story when I share some of my own personal feelings, thoughts, emotions, subconscious, and like how we work through that. How do we work through it? What do we do? So even though I wouldn't normally share personal details or vulnerable things that could get someone mad at me or upset at me or get me criticized or judged or whatever, it's really not the point. No one has done anything wrong here, right? Everyone's just doing the best that they can with what they have. I know it's trying to hurt me, but I feel hurt. So keeping that hurt inside doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help me. It doesn't help them. And they can't help me. They can't undo my hurt. The only person that can undo my hurt is me. If this resonates with you, if you understand, if you want more teachings about the subconscious and how to make the subconscious conscious and what to do with it when it becomes conscious, then how do you do the healing work to overcome it? Because a lot of this is really important in healing. And so if you like that I shared this story, and if I've posted this video, then I've been brave enough to post it. So all I ask in return is that you tap the like button, tap the share button with somebody in your pain group or in your healing group, write a comment, even if it's just your name, even if it's just one word down below, because that forces the algorithm to send this out to more people to get healing information. And I've never made a penny off of YouTube. I'm not even monetized, but I think it's important